Have you ever wondered if you're just stuck with the brain you've got? For years, the idea of a fixed intelligence has been the default. But what if that's completely wrong? In this explainer, we are breaking down the actual science of how you can genuinely get smarter. For decades, this idea of IQ has just loomed over us, right? This single fixed number that supposedly defines your cognitive limits for your entire life. It's a pretty bleak way to look at our own potential, isn't it? And this is a big but. What if this whole concept is just flawed? What if intelligence isn't some fixed label at all, but something dynamic, something you can actually build? Okay, so to understand how, we first need to get one thing straight. Intelligence isn't just one single thing. It's way more interesting than that. Think of your brain as having two different but totally interconnected toolkits that are always working together. So a modern definition of intelligence goes way, way beyond a simple test score. It's really this dynamic set of skills, your ability to learn new things, to adapt when you face a new challenge, and to apply what you know to solve problems out in the real world. And here are the two toolkits. On one hand, you've got your fluid intelligence. Think of this as your brain's raw processing power, your CPU. It's what lets you think on your feet and tackle brand new problems you've never seen before. On the other hand, you have your crystallized intelligence. This is your brain's database, all the facts, skills, and knowledge you've built up over your lifetime. And here's the really cool part. That database can always get bigger. So if we want to get smarter, we need a strategy for both of these toolkits. Let's start with the first pillar, how to actively train your brain's processor, that fluid intelligence. All right, so how do you actually do that? There are countless brain games out there making huge promises, but the real science points to one very specific type of training that delivers actual measurable results. It's all based on something called relational frame theory. Now, the core idea here is that the real foundation of human intelligence isn't just knowing stuff, but understanding the relationships between things. More than versus less than, same as versus opposite of, before and after. If you can master these relationships, you master reason. Look at how simple yet powerful this is. You're given two facts. Mary is taller than John, and John is taller than Norma. Now, you've never actually seen Mary and Norma standing next to each other, but by understanding the relationship of taller than, your brain instantly figures out a new piece of information. That is your fluid intelligence in action. Let's try a more abstract one. If A is the opposite of B, and B is the opposite of C, well then A and C have to be the same thing. This ability to reason about relationships, even with totally abstract concepts, is a core skill that underpins everything from mathematics to logic. And get this, training programs built on this theory, like one called SMART, are totally different from your average brain game. Instead of just getting you better at that specific game, studies show that training these fundamental relational skills can lead to real, measurable gains in your overall IQ. You're not just practicing a task, you're strengthening the very foundation of how you think. But hey, a powerful processor is pretty useless without any data to process, right? And that brings us to our second pillar, deliberately building up your knowledge base, your crystallized intelligence. There's this really popular idea today that says we don't need to memorize facts anymore because we can just, Google it. The focus in education has really shifted to teaching critical thinking skills. But this brings up a huge question. Can you really think critically about a topic you know absolutely nothing about? Well, Bloom's taxonomy, which is a classic model in education, shows us exactly why that idea is flawed. Look at the very bottom of the pyramid. What's the foundation? Recalling facts. You simply cannot get to those higher levels, analyzing, evaluating, or creating something new, without a solid base of knowledge to work with. Factual knowledge isn't the enemy of higher thinking. It's the absolute prerequisite for it. And this foundation of knowledge is crucial for more than just logic. It is the absolute bedrock of creativity. We often think of creativity as some kind of magical spark, but research shows it's deeply tied to what you actually know. To have a breakthrough in physics, you need to first understand physics. To write an innovative novel, you need to know literature. Knowledge doesn't stifle creativity. It is the fuel for it. So we've trained our processor and we're building our database, but none of that matters if the hardware itself isn't running properly. And that's our third and final pillar, fueling the biological machine that is your brain. Seriously, none of that cognitive work matters if the biological machine running the whole show is sputtering. You just can't separate your mind from your body, and the scientific evidence for how exercise and nutrition fuel brain health is just overwhelming. When you exercise, your body produces this amazing protein called BDNF. The best way to think about it is like fertilizer for your brain cells. It helps grow new neurons and strengthens the connections between them, which is the very biological mechanism that underpins all learning and memory. And what's really interesting is that different types of exercise have different brain benefits. Aerobic training, like running, is fantastic for long-term memory. HIIT can give you an immediate boost in your processing speed. And resistance training, or lifting weights, helps protect your brain's actual physical volume as you age. The ideal strategy? A mix of all three. And, of course, you have to supply the right building blocks through your diet. This isn't about some magic pill, but a diet rich in key nutrients. For example, omega-3s from fish literally build your brain's cell membranes. Flavonoids from foods like berries acts like tiny bodyguards, protecting those cells from damage. It's all about fueling the machine from the ground up. So it all comes together in one system. See, there's no single brain hack that's going to make you a genius overnight. Real, sustainable improvement comes from this holistic approach. Actively training your fluid reasoning, consistently building your crystallized knowledge, and physically fueling your brain's hardware with the right exercise and nutrition. You know, the most powerful takeaway from all of this is that the old idea of a fixed, unchangeable intelligence is just plain wrong. Your brain is a dynamic, incredibly adaptable system. The potential to learn, to grow, and to become smarter is always there. So the only question left is, how are you going to choose to build it?